Variant Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease is most likely a result of consumption of contaminated beef that has brain and spinal cord tissue that contains prion proteins in it. The widely held view is that the outbreak in the mid-1980s in the United Kingdom was a result of a species leap from prions in sheep to cattle, when prion-infected animal proteins were used as cattle feed to beef up milk production. These animal proteins come from ground-up carcasses of sheep and cattle, including brain, spleen, thymus glands, tonsils, and intestines, a mixture called offal. The cattle were essentially eating the remains of other cattle, including the remains of sick and dead animals found in the fields. Cattle, of course, should just be eating grass as they are ruminants, but in fact, ranchers had turned cattle not only into omnivores, but carnivores. This also happened in the United States, but in the United States we have a much smaller sheep population, and so the leap of prions to cattle was probably a lot less common or didn't happen. In the United Kingdom, however, with a lot less grazing area, more of the cattle were ingesting offal mixed up with their food, and transmission of BSE was able to go unchecked through the cattle population. Eventually, the meat that was consumed by the British became contaminated with prion proteins, resulting in a large number of infected individuals and deaths in the United Kingdom. The reason why this condition came to the attention of medical doctors was because the symptoms of CJD, which include confusion, memory loss, followed by a lack of coordination, an inability to walk, and then eventually an inability to swallow and breathe, and death, was found in younger individuals. These symptoms would normally be chalked up to dementia in older individuals and not explored any further. But when they started appearing in younger individuals in their 20s, people started wondering what the cause of this early onset dementia was. This early onset fatal dementia was soon discovered to be variant Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease. And why the young were getting it much more frequently than middle-aged individuals was that younger individuals were more likely to consume meat contaminated with brain and spinal cord. Brain and spinal cord is much more likely to contaminate things such as meat pies, hot dogs, sausages, and hamburgers, where the beef is all ground together, as opposed to steaks, which are more likely consumed by older individuals that can afford them. This is why younger individuals were much more likely to acquire variant Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease in the 1980s in Great Britain. There is no treatment for any of these prion diseases, no vaccine, and no cure. So all of these cases of variant Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease eventually become fatal with only palliative care. Nowadays, there is a restriction on the ability of feeding cattle to other cattle. Instead, cattle offal is fed to chickens and pigs, and chicken and pig offal is fed to cattle. If you want to make sure that you don't consume any meat, like beef, that came from a cow that was eating meat of other organisms, you can just consume organic beef or grass-fed beef, and that way completely eliminate the possibility of the spread of BSE and variant Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease anywhere in the world again. Well, that's it for this chapter. Phew, that sure was a long one. I hope you stuck with me and study all of these different viruses and prion diseases so you can answer the questions in today's assignments. Good luck!